Fantastic Four selling out theaters across the nation, or at least that is what they would have you believe. And the Black Panther gets a race swap. Will Marvel never learn? I got Nat over here doing the production.
Hello.
She's got her own show at 8 p.m. Central Time. It's in Spanish on our other channel, Nat and the Guy in Espanol. So if you are a Spanish speaker, please check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're going to get right into it. Maybe before we get into it, I'm not growing horns. This is actually the Angel of Independence in Mexico City. We now live in Mexico City. This is an iconic statue in the city center. So if you're ever down in Mexico, check it out.
Yes, it's where a lot of protests happen as well.
Yeah. So if you do go down there and there is a protest, don't be surprised. Okay, let's get into the race swapping of the Black Panther. And I don't know how I missed this yesterday, but I did. I know in between our night shows, we got about 15 minutes, and I turned WDW Pro on, and I think this was the story they were talking about, but I fast forwarded it and caught it in the middle. So I didn't quite know what they were talking about. I woke up this morning, and this was all over X. So I thought this was the perfect topic for us because it involves politics, Disney, Marvel, race swapping, all the good things.
Yeah, so Dome Lucas says, breaking, comic book fans are furious after Marvel revealed the new Black Panther is a white man. Marvel fans are in uproar after the debut of a controversial new storyline that reimagines Black Panther's legacy with a shocking twist. The latest heir appears to be white. The premiere issue of Marvel Knights The World to Come dropped Wednesday and introduced a new character named Katema, whom T'Challa, prince of the fictional African kingdom of Wakanda, and the original Black Panther.
And this is a new storyline for the comic book, but very often they bring the storylines into the comics books first before they turn them into movies. If they ever do turn this into a movie, I feel bad for the white actor that's going to play this because there is going to be a ton of backlash. Now, as you may or may not know, I do talk politics and pop culture, politics mainly on our night show, but I'm always putting myself in the shoe of the other person, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, the United Kingdom. I try to put myself in the different points of view they all kind of have. And I was really trying to put myself in Marvel's point of view. What are they thinking here? What are they trying to do? There has to be some kind of method to the madness. What I kind of came up with was they wanted publicity. They wanted to make headlines. So far, they succeeded on that, but they're doing it in the wrong way. The conservative or traditional base does not want a race swap. They generally don't like race swaps. Just because this is a reverse race swap, they're not going to accept it. They're not going to like it. Progressives are definitely going to hate this. I think this is the first reverse race swap we've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's funny because everybody has always kind of been using Black Panther as an example of what they wouldn't want to be race swapped, and now they actually did it. So
like this is some kind of
seems like trolling.
Seems like some kind of alternate universe we're living in. The fact that this was actually a story, and they're not just testing it out for headlines. They've actually made the comic book with this is insane to me. This is obviously you don't do this, but as I started to think about it more, my conclusion was they're going to make the Black Panther white, turn him into a villain, and then kill him. That way it gets publicity on the front end with the white Black Panther. It gets publicity on the back end with killing the white Black Panther. It's the only way I could see him trying to justify it in their crazy progressive heads. But even that is not a good idea. We'll talk more about race swapping in film and stuff like that. I'm thinking of mainly the main time this came up was Aunt Belinda.
Who? Anne Boleyn?
Anne Boleyn. Yeah.
King Henry VIII's unfortunate wife.
And that was a historical movie.
But also they did that with...
They did it with The Little Mermaid and a bunch of stuff.
Well, yes.
But when it comes to a historical figure, that's when it's I think it's off limits when it's a historical figure.
Yes. But they also tried to do it with the Egyptian queen. Why can't I remember the name?
Oh, Cleopatra.
Cleopatra, exactly.
So
and they tried to actually bring in historians to
justify it.
Yeah, to justify it.
And then they also, at the same time they were doing that Anne Boleyn and that Cleopatra race swap, a lot of the AI was coming out and they were race swapping a lot of people as historical figures through AI. And that was a huge scandal in the political realm because they found out the algorithm had been tampered with and things like that. It's kind of been fixed now. Once in a while it still pops up. But that being said, I don't necessarily always have a problem with a race swap. But when it's a historical figure, yes, I do. Black Panther is just, it's a black character. Yes. You have very few black characters in comic books that are actually good. This is one of them. Don't mess with it. I don't care if you are going to make them white and then kill them off. Don't do it. They shouldn't be touching this, especially right now with the way Marvel and Disney's into politics. It can only go bad. They seen what happened with Lilo and Stitch, and they made a moderate movie that appealed to everybody. That's kind of what they need to do.
And even then, with Lilo and Stitch, there were a small controversy started by the other side, let's just say, where they were not happy enough that the actress, they were saying that she was too white.
Oh, yeah, this is the thing with the politics and the casting right now. Things are just too political, and the political realm in the United States is very racial right now, which is just having an after effect on the casting of these movies and backlash and cancellations. Now, maybe I'm also thinking of when they were talking, and now it was only in talks, it was the race swap of 007. I actually liked that because the person that they were talking about putting in the 007 role was Idris Elba, and I really like Idris Elba. I think he represents masculinity very well. I think he's kind of Denzel Washington, but a tiny bit younger, not a lot, but he hasn't aged out from action movies yet. He also really does Muay Thai in real life, things like this. He has a real British accent. So when there was backlash against turning 007 black, I wasn't too angry at that at all. I actually liked the casting of Idris Elba. It never came to fruition because I think Amazon bought the rights to 007 and they're going to make a bunch of spin-offs. But at the time, they hadn't had the contract completely worked out, so they couldn't bring it into full production.
And do you want to read a little bit from That Park Place?
Yeah.
So this is coming from That Park Place. If you don't follow them on YouTube or follow WDW Pro, go do so. They always have great information. It says Marvel's new Black Panther is white. Yes, seriously, from Marvin Montanaro. In one of the most unexpected turns in modern comic book storytelling, Marvel has introduced a white Black Panther as the new ruler of Wakanda in Marvel Knights: The World to Come, Volume 1. The mantle, long associated with King T'Challa and Wakanda's African legacy, has now passed to his son Katema, a blonde-haired, white-skinned warrior who defeats T'Challa in ritual combat and claims the throne for himself.
And this is one character where the racial identity of the character actually matters. Mm-hmm. So they should be casting a black person in this role. And I'm somebody that would rarely say that. In a historical role, stick to the historical identity of the character. In a role like this where it actually matters, you should be casting a black person in this role.
Well, I don't think it's a movie yet, or they'll ever make a movie.
No,
it's
but
just
if they do,
the comic,
and they're usually, like I said, they usually test ideas out here.
Yes.
I could see them doing it. I mean, I don't know.
The move has already sparked widespread discussion across fandom and social media, with many shocked not only by the storyline but also by what it represents in the broader cultural landscape of superhero fiction.
Yeah, and as I was thinking about this, I kept coming back to 007 in my mind. And now that they are starting to produce these films, I really hope they do bring the name of Idris Elba back. I think he would make a great 007. The only other 007, because Daniel Craig doesn't want to do it anymore, would be, the guy from Mad Max again. Why do I keep forgetting his name? Tom Hardy. And he's got a traditional British accent as well. So either Tom Hardy or Idris Elba, I think would be fantastic for the new 007. But I was just shocked when I seen that headline, and I had to triple check it because I thought it was a meme. I thought somebody was trolling on X. Sure enough, it was all over the internet, and I had missed it the day before.
But I think your theory of they're doing it to end him is probably why they're doing it.
Yeah, I think so. That's the only way they'd
can justify it.
Can justify
and not
it,
get everybody angry at them. I mean, everybody already apparently is angry at them.
And it's funny, yesterday, because we talk a lot of pop culture and production here, I've been talking about microphones, and our sound was completely messed up yesterday.
Yes.
Our main set's our other set, which we do our night show on. And I had the mic way too close to me, so it was like this, and it was just clipping. So, and then your mic was too far away from you.
Yes.
And we don't have anybody to monitor it. I can't monitor it because I'm doing the show live. She can't monitor it because she's trying to do the switching articles and read. She's already has a lot. So sometimes we just hope and pray the audio is good. Okay, let's go into the Fantastic Four First Steps.
So Vented said the Fantastic Four First Steps has crashed Regal and Fandango, users reporting mass outages and inability to purchase tickets.
Yeah, and I kind of think this is a fraudulent story and they're trying to build hype for the movie. If they can build fake hype, they're hoping that turns into real ticket sales. Now, what do I mean? This is fake hype. They say it's crashing the system. I think, yeah, maybe Disney may have bought a lot of, this is speculation, by the way, could have bought a bunch of tickets to intentionally crash the system so they can have a story like this to build up false hype. Where do I get the idea from this? Well, I used to work in the record industry down in Hollywood for a small record label. I went to community college for a little while, took the business of music course. I got an internship at a small record label. It was 4 hours there, 4 hours back every day. So it was 8 hours just to get there. And then I had to work for free because it was an internship. They basically gave me a phone book this big of every single radio station in the entire country. It was my job to cold call every radio station and say whatever I had to say to get their artists on the radio.
Back when phone books were a thing, so that tells you how long ago that was.
That being said, what I did learn about the record industry there is a lot of these top Billboard artists and things like this, the record company actually buys millions of copies of their own records to artificially inflate the numbers so they can start kind of a hype around the record, and then they're hoping real record sales will generate from that. And they can write it off on their taxes later on as well.
Yes. And
so I haven't really heard of the movie industry doing this,
yes,
but there was some rumors on... Oh, was it some movie? What movie did we go see recently?
Mission Impossible.
And nobody was in the theater.
Mission Impossible?
No.
Gladiator?
No, it wasn't Leo. We took a picture and nobody was in the theater. Oh, Snow White.
Oh, yes.
Snow White. I had a feeling they were doing that because the same tickets in all these theaters were bought, and it was the back four seats in all these cinemas were bought. Other independent media pop culture channels realized this as well. So it kind of got me thinking, why wouldn't they do what the record industry is doing? Why wouldn't they buy a few 100,000 tickets to generate hype and build a story like this of, oh, ticket sales are selling out? I watched a lot of trailers for today's episode. As we go, you're going to see a lot of different stories about movies that are coming out that I hadn't watched the trailer. I hadn't watched the Fantastic Four trailer, and it did not look good at all. I mean, I've recently watched Superman trailer, Ballerina trailer, the Alien new series trailer, and this was by far the worst of all of them.
And we do have from Cosmic Book News, it says, fact check, are Fantastic Four ticket sales crashing websites? It's funny that this needs a fact check. Fantastic Four tickets are now on sale, with a tweet going viral on X that due to high demand, ticket sales have been crashing. However, when actually checking ticket sites and sales, it reveals the sites are up and running fine, and in reality, not a lot of Fantastic Four tickets have been sold yet. Worth a mention is that the claim comes from the same X account who tweeted trans actor Hunter Schafer is being eyed to play Princess Zelda in Nintendo's upcoming live-action Zelda movie, which looks to be fake news as well. And there was an update. It is also being claimed by other accounts that the AMC app crashed as a result of high demand. However, if the app really crashed, it doesn't look to be due to high demand, as again, checking ticket sales reveals not to have sold, not a lot have been sold. And then people are citing Down Detector as proof.
Yeah, this is fake.
There was only 12 people reporting it.
This is fake hype, and if they actually have surging ticket sales, I'm not expecting real people to actually be in the cinema. I'm expecting the studio to perhaps buy up a bunch of tickets to...
Or like they were doing with, I believe it was Snow White, they ended up having to give promos and like giving out free tickets or free popcorn to people to actually just go fill the seats that they had themselves bought. So I do think for Snow White, they did actually buy a lot of their tickets, and it just shows the actual desperation that they have and how they are actually scared that nobody wants to go see it.
Yeah, this movie looks like it's going to crash. You have this Pedro Pascal thing kind of coming to a head. This comes out on the 24th, and the stories about Pedro Pascal just keep mounting week after week. So maybe if it came out last week, it would have avoided that. I don't think he's going to be able to avoid that, nor is this movie. They're also calling it the MCU, which I know they're trying to make edits, but it's really close to release date. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. My bet is this movie is going to crash and burn in a big way, and it's going to make big headlines once again.
Are we going to go see it?
I'm not going to see this piece of crap. No.
But we should, so we can actually review it.
I'll review the next movie.
We went to go watch Snow White, I mean.
That was the last time. Like that. Oh my God. I'm willing to go like another movie. Actually, it's the next movie. Why don't we just go right into that, which is Ballerina. I would go see this. This actually looked good. It looks like they did everything right. But I said that about the Karate Kid too. Before the movie released, the Karate Kid did everything right. They put the original actor from the first Karate Kid. They put Jackie Chan in there. They did good advertisement. They checked all the boxes, stayed non-political. But then they just released a bad movie. So you have to have a good movie when you do everything right. So far, everything I can tell on this movie looks good. If you don't know what Ballerina is, it's an offspin of John Wick, and usually I'm against these feminist action heroes, but it looks like they may be able to pull it off, and I say may because I'm going to wait to actually see it before I say they did. I did watch the trailer on this, and it was a phenomenal trailer. Whoever made the trailer did it right, and they did it right because of the song they put in there, and it was that what's his name? John
Legend?
No, the gay musician from the UK?
Elton John.
Elton John. That's who it was.
We sound like a couple of old people trying to remember names and things.
It was the Ballerina song. Do you know the...
Yes. Hold Me Closer, Tiny Dancer?
Yeah, Hold Me Closer, Tiny Dancer. And man, it really went with the action sequences. It pulled me in. The song had nostalgia. The song is what pushed that trailer to another level. And then you had Keanu Reeves come in on that trailer near the end, which was like, oh, they actually put John Wick in it. The action sequences looked phenomenal. Now, there have been some early reviews of this, and they seem to be coming back good. They did make one mistake, and it's slow moving in the first half of the movie, which that's the problem I kind of had with Mission Impossible as well. I'm more forgiving for this movie because they do need to build the backstory of her as a child, the traumatic events that happened, how she got recruited into becoming an assassin and things like this. So because they really need to build her backstory, I'm okay with it moving slower on the first half, especially when the reviews are coming back so well for the second half of the movie, the action sequences and things like this. Also, having a female character that's kicking ass is usually unbelievable, but you're already kind of drawn into that state of disbelief with the John Wick universe. He's taking on 100 people with guns, and he's just got a handgun or a knife, and he's able to kill them all. So you're already playing to an audience that has the ability to suspend the disbelief. As far as Hollywood actresses go and casting, just like I said with male actors, they're not able to make this new generation of action heroes, or at least not appropriately, where people want to spend their money. As far as female actresses go, she's one of the top actresses they have been able to build. There is nobody else that they've built in this new generation that is kind of a star. I wouldn't say she's a superstar, but she's known by face. She's in a lot of movies.
Her name is Ana de Armas.
Yeah. Overall, I like her. She's a solid actress. So you could have cast her or the girl that played Wonder Woman. Who was that again?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot would have worked in this very well because the character lended itself to having an accent. Also, Gal Gadot is very much a lot taller. She's in good shape. She used to be in the military. So she has real life attributes that possibly would lend itself to a female action hero. That being said, I'm perfectly happy with this actress in the movie, and I kind of do want to see it now after watching the trailer. We watched a sneak peek trailer on one of the movies we watched, and it didn't really catch me. It didn't have that Tiny Dancer song in there. Mm-hmm. And on this new trailer, it did have that, and it completely drew me in. I will watch this movie now, so Why don't we read a little bit about it, actually?
So ballerina hopes to tiptoe past 30 million US, 60 million worldwide as the
And one more thing, I do like the name of it. They called it Ballerina, and it's a female character, so it kind of lends itself to that.
So whether or not, and this is coming from Deadline, whether or not Lionsgate John Wick's spin-off Ballerina clears or falls under 30 million this weekend in the US and Canada, consider the win in favor of exhibition, which will have that much more money in the marketplace. The Ana de Armas action movie from director Len Wiseman is also bowing in 82 countries in what's expected to be another 30 million for a global take of around 60. The offshore cash would be on par with the start of John Wick Chapter 3 in 2019. Lionsgate is self-distributing in the UK and Latin America.
And if this movie if they have done it correct and it's a good movie, I would expect more than 60 million. This has a built-in fan base for John Wick. This is a hugely important movie for Lionsgate and the IP of John Wick. This is the first real spin-off from John Wick. It's a completely opposite character with a completely opposite storyline. So I like how they went that direction. So they're just not trying to replicate the same movie. It's going to have its own backstory, its own stuff, but they've added John Wick in there. We've talked about on this channel that Lionsgate is making a John Wick universe right now. They have a multitude of spin-offs and TV series coming out. This is the first. It's very important this does well for them. So far, it looks like everything's right. Hopefully, it's a good movie and it's not like The Karate Kid, which
sadly
crashed because I am a Karate Kid fan, but I call it as I see it.
Speaking of crashing, from Variety, F1.
One more thing. That actress is also from Mexico City, yeah?
Not 100% sure. I know she has some kind of descendants, but I'll have to double check. I've never really followed her.
Yeah.
Because she's never really, yeah.
Okay, let's go into this.
F1 first reactions. Brad Pitt's racing epic is an old school summer blockbuster that's so freaking good, from Variety.
And I was glad to see this headline. We went to watch Mission Impossible, which was the perfect movie to have this as the trailer on that movie. This looked phenomenal. I turned to Nat and I said, we got to go see that. It instantly drew me in because Tom Cruise was in the main feature of Mission Impossible. This movie instantly made me think of Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise as well, because I already had him kind of in my mind. Who's the co-actor in this movie again? You already know this. I keep asking you because we talked about this movie a lot. This is what movie with Brad Pitt?
Not the little kid, but the other guy?
The older gentleman.
Oh, God.
He's in No Country for Old Men.
Javier Bardem.
Say it again.
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. I always have trouble saying his name. That's why I asked
I have to say it in English accent, otherwise people won't understand.
And this also looks like the return of Brad Pitt, which is good. It's not like he ever really disappeared. He makes solid movies here and there, but man, this looks good. It lends itself to an older character like Brad Pitt trying to make a comeback. So I was very excited when I seen this movie. It did definitely spark my attention as well. It combines a lot of different things, different IPs, like a sports IP that is F1. Racing is becoming extremely big. We were talking about the Daytona 500 breaking records and stuff like this. And when we were reporting on that story, I was instantly thinking about this movie and how that fan base will move over to this movie. Also, Brad Pitt is a good actor to appeal to that fan base, I believe. I would expect this movie to do really good.
And as any masculine-centered or focused movie, they always will end up doing good because people are starving for that kind of content that they haven't been given for who knows how long.
Well, oh no, that wasn't. But that was actually Matt Damon and the Batman. Why am I forgetting all the names?
CTE?
Who's the guy that played Batman now? Christian Bale. So Matt Damon and Christian Bale did that race movie recently. Brad Pitt would fit right into that kind of, they did a good job acting in that movie. I could see Brad Pitt doing even better in this movie. And with the mentor trainer figure as the co-lead, who looks like he's doing a phenomenal job as well. This is one movie that we will go see.
I will go watch Fantastic Four just so I can review it. And also, Ana de Armas is Cuban, not Mexican.
Oh, okay. And why don't we read a little bit about the movie?
Oh, okay.
And I have a ton of stories today, so I'm sorry if I'm blowing through these kind of quickly, but I was surprised when I woke up. Headlines just started writing themselves, and I was nonstop in my notes today.
So this is from Variety. Brad Pitt's summer tentpole F1 has been unveiled to members of the press, of the film press, and the first reactions are praising the racing thriller as action-packed with strong visuals. Variety's nobody cares. Variety's...
And it looked very cinematic, and the visuals were phenomenal. And I like how it's not a spin-off. It's not a comic book movie. It looks like it's a really standalone movie. Mm-hmm. And this shows that Hollywood, you can still write good movies, assuming this movie is written good and it's going to be as good as it looks in the trailer. Sinners is another one of those original movies. Make original movies that are standalone. We're tired of sequels. We're tired of you just doing the same thing over and over, the same basic plot arc.
And there is a lot of comparisons within the people that have reviewed it to Top Gun Maverick, which actually Top Gun did so well because it was catering full on without asking permission or saying sorry to a male audience. And I think this is why they're so happy with this one as well.
Well, also, now I'm a little bit older, so the people reviewing this probably don't remember Days of Thunder, but Days of Thunder was the racing version of Top Gun. So they actually have historical movies they can dig into, watch what worked, what didn't, how do you build tension in a race movie. So they have a good palette to kind of know what works rather than trying something and have it fail. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's go into the next movie, and that's James Gunn. We've talked a lot about this. I'm a little bit burned out of talking about Superman, but...
So this is coming from Deadline. James Gunn confirms Superman runtime and clears up rumor Warner Brothers forced him to cut it down.
Yeah, and movies like this, superhero movies, an hour and 30-minute runtime is perfect, or even shorter than that, I'm happy with. You should be trying to make the best movie every time out. That doesn't mean extending it longer and longer and longer. And we're hearing them about editing this movie, doing reshoots, things like this. There was some political things in this movie. It was rumored they're trying to take them out and edit around that. I think that's why the runtime's getting cut down, to be honest with you.
I don't know if it is getting cut down because it says James Gunn is clearing some things up about his upcoming film. Superman, the long-awaited DC Comics movie, is slated to premiere July 11th. Blah, blah, blah. Threads user asked Gunn if the Superman runtime of 2 hours and 9 minutes was correct, to which the filmmaker and DC Studios co-head replied, confirming it was accurate.
That's too long.
Inclusive of credits, post-credits, the runtime is 2 hours and 9 minutes, he confirmed.
That's too long. And there was another DC article. I didn't have the time to read it, so I didn't bring it in there. But it looks like Truth, Justice, in the American Way, that he took out the American Way. That was the headline. So I'll have to read more into it. And maybe we'll have it for tonight's show, Nat and the Guy, at 9:15 Central, right back here. But man, Superman's one of those characters you want to lean into classic Americana. And the fact that the original trailers didn't look like that, and I think it was actually, there was a lot of woke stuff in here to begin with, and now they took some of that out. And I'm looking at the Fantastic Four as well, because that trailer was all about family, family, family. They kept saying it to kind of press that forward because it worked for Lilo and Stitch, but it also... I'm just hyper aware of politics in pop culture, and when the Fantastic Four keeps talking about family, it almost seems like we're your alternative family.
It's the whole chosen family.
It's your chosen family, stuff like this. I won't get too deep into it because we don't go too much into politics on the morning show, but the way they were inserting family over and over in a very, how would you say it, false way or forced and contrived way into the Fantastic Four trailer was a little bit off-putting. But at least that's showing that Disney is getting the hint. They just can't reshoot these movies. They already have them in the vault, so they're trying to edit them the best they can and promote them the best they can. Anything new they put out, hopefully they can continue to go in a non-political direction. And yeah, that's the best I can say about that. But 2 hours and 9 minutes is going to be way too long for this movie. You want an hour and a half. You want people leaving that theater wanting more. You're going to make more with these superhero movies. If it does well, you're going to make another one. It's not a standalone movie.
Yes. And nowadays they just make it so people want less and less.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about Alien here. And this is another show where I'm hyper aware of politics when I watch trailers. The trailer did look phenomenal for this. I am a big Aliens fan. Somehow I just haven't had time to watch the last Aliens that was done with all practical effects. We did do a review on
Alien Romulus.
Alien Romulus. We did a review on how they made that movie. We were just so busy because we just moved to Mexico. We were moving houses. We're trying to set up the production studio. We didn't have a chance to watch that, but it's on my list of that and Sinners are the two things I want to watch right now. This did look phenomenal. The trailer, the opening of the trailer, I did not like. We'll talk about that in a moment. Why don't you read this in
So this is coming from Variety. Alien Earth trailer. Xenomorphs terrorize synthetic soldiers in prequel series to original Alien movie. So I'm guessing this is the continuation of Romulus.
No, it's based upon Alien, the first Alien, and it's a prequel to that.
Okay.
So.
FX is piloting Alien a little closer to home. The network has released the first full trailer for Alien Earth, an 8-episode series serving as a prequel to Ridley Scott's Alien. The show stars Sidney Chandler, Alex Lothar, and
I don't think
they go on to.
And I don't think horror movies lend themselves very well to TV series, but science fiction does. So I hope they lean heavy into the science fiction and then sprinkle it with a little bit of horror here and there for some shock scares and things like this. But sci-fi really lends itself well to TV. I always liked Aliens as standalone movies. I think they work well as movies, especially when they're done right. And most of the time they have been done right. That being said, overall, the trailer looked good. Of all the series that I've watched lately for trailers, it's the only one that I would watch. That being said, it opened up with this post-humanist trans kind of agenda in the opening trailer where this little girl comes into a room with a scientist and they're going to implant her mind into another body. So a trans robotic body. And they really leaned into that into the beginning. But I first said, oh my God, they're not going to get political with this. But it does lend itself in a sci-fi sense to the story. So I'm not as angry. And the rest of the trailer was pretty phenomenal. So I will definitely give this a chance. And we'll definitely report on it in the future. And I know a lot of other channels like Culture Casino and WDW Pro are looking forward to that series as well. Okay, let's actually Culture Casino is going to do episode by episode reviews of it.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah.
Maybe then I don't have to watch it.
Yeah, if you don't watch Culture Casino, I highly recommend it. He's a little bit more independent, and he's a bit of a smaller channel, even though he's on WDW Pro and stuff like that. Okay, let's go into the next story, and this is an update from yesterday.
So this is coming from Variety. Warner Brothers Discovery lost $11.5 billion in 2024. So how much did CEO David Zaslav exceed his bonus targets?
And yes, so we talked about Zaslav yesterday. He wanted a $52 million new contract, which I thought was insane. The investors voted it down, which was good. But now it's coming out that the company lost $11.5 billion. We reported a lot on Warner Brothers Discovery, and I knew they were in bad shape. It must have slipped my mind yesterday that they had $11.5 billion, billion in losses. Not million, not 100 million, but $11.5 billion. That company is in real trouble, paying the CEO $52 million. That's maybe why your losses are so high. That being said, I believe he hit most of his targets, and whoever wrote that contract did it not in a very good way, because there should be a clause in there where if the company loses a certain amount of money, the CEO will retain none of his bonuses. Obviously, they put bonus targets in his contract, which he went directly in that direction probably and made sure he hit those specific bonuses, which may have hurt the company overall.
Yes. So by many measures, Warner Brothers Discovery had a bad 2024. Revenue dropped 4.8 to 39.3 billion. The company reported a staggering 11.5 billion net loss, largely because of a 9.1 billion goodwill impairment charge that reflected the lower valuation of its linear TV networks. WBD stock fell around 7% for the year, but But Warner Brothers Discovery rewarded President and CEO David Zaslav with a 4.4% pay bump to a total compensation of $51.9 million last year, including a cash bonus of $23.9 million and $23.1 million in performance-based restricted stock grants. According to WBD, Zaslav was deemed eligible for a 108.6 payout of his 2024 cash bonus target and 200% of the target for his stock grants.
God, is he trying to sell? He's either hoping for a merger or is instantly selling those stocks and cashing in. That's a huge bonus to be in the form of stocks, especially when Hollywood is in such a transitional period with AI and politics and everything else. Did you have anything about the story before we move on, or no?
No.
Okay, let's go into the next one. And why don't you read the headline?
So this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Blumhouse in talks to buy Saw franchise from Twisted Pictures.
Yeah, and I think this franchise has played out, and I was a big fan of the first Saw. They've just gone to that well one too many times. When I was researching this story, I was like, didn't they make a TV series out of this? And then I looked into it. No, they're in talks for a TV series. There's just been so many of these movies. It seems like it is a TV series. Mm-hmm. And like I said with Alien Romulus, horror does not lend itself very well to TV. And there's talks of a Saw TV show in the works and things like this. So whoever buys it, I'm guessing that's going to be one of the main things they try to do. I don't think horror lends itself well to TV. That being said, it does lend itself sometimes in a detective sense if you focus on the two detectives doing the work and then add in a sprinkle of horror. But that's not what the Saw franchise is. So if I were a company, I would not be buying this franchise.
But I do think, for example, for TV and horror, I can't say that word, Netflix did it pretty well with The Haunting of Hill House, and the prequel or sequel, well, the other one they attached to that one didn't do as well. But I do think Haunting of Hill House was able to manage horror in a episodic way.
You can manage it, but to make it great, it's hard. And you can make here or there, but overall, sci-fi lends itself very well to TV and episodic things like this. So do all the other genres. Horror, it can be done, but it's difficult to do it. And I wouldn't you're not getting the best people to work on this. So I wouldn't expect them to do it very well because they couldn't even do, other than the first one, they couldn't do the other sequels very well either.
But I think with horror, it actually might lend itself, kind of like with The Haunting of Hill House, to explore more storyline than you usually could in a movie set, like in a setting within a movie. But and there's a lot of ways that they could branch out, as they have tried with the Saw franchise, and telling different stories and different characters and the past, the future.
Well, it's about a serial killer, so you would have to lean heavy into the detective aspect of that and the detectives' lives, and it would really bring itself away from the genre of horror and why the people that are going there to watch it are watching it. They're watching it for the thrills and the horror, and you're going to give them a detective thriller.
Or it could be like a psychological thriller as to what happened, the past, what made them want to do it.
Maybe, yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, you can watch it and tell me if you liked it, because I probably won't be watching it if it ever gets made and if it actually gets sold.
Yeah, it hasn't been announced yet.
Okay, what do we have next here? And that's ESPN, I believe.
So from Variety, ESPN hopes to hook streamers with new slogan, Sports Forever.
And ESPN, in my view, is dead. I mean, it's a Disney franchise, so they can just keep pumping money into it. It's way too political. All their commentators are way too political. The biggest franchise they have, which I really like, is UFC, but they even messed that up because they charge you a pay-per-view for the UFC. That contract just ran out, and it's rumored that Netflix or possibly Amazon will pick it up. Those are the two main bidders right now. If Netflix picks it up, it's expected to have a new kind of model where Netflix is going to eat the pay-per-view cost and give it to you with your subscription. And if that happens, they're going to have a lot of subscriptions for Netflix, and it would be huge. I think ESPN just overall is bad. I know the entire future of Disney is their hopes are within ESPN, at least economically. We've talked about this a lot. I don't think we've talked about it lately, but before the Trump administration was coming in, they were expected to be able to streamline legislation to get betting on the ESPN app on your TV, so you could really have kids watching Disney, growing up into teenagers, getting into sports, and then using the betting app, basically having a streamline from children into online gambling. And then you would have a lifelong customer. But it looks like that's kind of falling apart. We'll see what happens. But the future of Disney and really ESPN was with this online betting app they were hoping to install in all TVs and things like this.
And also the future of Disney's Disney Plus and their whole streaming thing. But at the same time, they continue, as do many other sports streaming services or sports networks, to be scared of people, for example, using the content and speaking about it live on, which would actually give them more views, but they still don't want to lean into that to the commentators online and to people being able to share content. So,
well, and they're investing in the more woke leagues. They're investing in the NBA. Like you had the UFC right there. It seems to be disappearing out of their hands now, and you're replacing it with the NBA. The NBA has a lot of retooling to do. So yeah, we'll see what happens with ESPN, but I don't have high hopes for that brand overall. And it's a shame because I grew up on that brand and it had a lot of nostalgia. I stuck with ESPN for a long time, but I'm kind of done with it now.
Now, more nostalgia. So fans around the world queue up in long lines for the highly anticipated Nintendo Switch 2 launch from the AP.
And I think this is an overhyped system. I think people should wait. I think the price will drop. I also think a lot of the games, like the one game that's selling this system is Mario Kart, and that's out. But a lot of the other games they're showing are actually games from the Switch 1 that are going to be able to be played on the Switch 2, and it has a little disclaimer on the box saying it's actually the original game with a couple extra levels. So I don't think they've really created enough content for the system to justify it buying yet, but it's a Nintendo product. Nintendo can build a lot of hype behind it. There's also a lot of things about them being able to brick the system or turn the system off if you alter the system in any way. I'm an older person. I actually used to manage a video game store at one point, and I got completely burned out of video games, but I played every system. I owned every game. Games I didn't own, I would just take from the store, play it for a couple weeks, put it back. And I know a lot about the video game industry because I did work there, and I ended up being a manager. But I would honestly buy the Steam Deck or one of the other. There's a lot of handheld consoles that look very similar to Nintendo, but you can download any game on there. It connects with online very well, so you can download games, things like that. This appeals to a very specific crowd and parents to buy for their kids, things like that. I don't think it's a massive upgrade from the first one. That being said, Nintendo was able to kind of corner a specific market with the first Nintendo Switch. This is a slight upgrade, and I talk about this all the time with our cameras, and we built our small production company here. Because I was so involved in politics and I was reporting on a lot of things, I could see that technology was going to stagnate, and sure enough, it has. When I first started building the small production company with cameras, switcher boards, lights, every year when the new camera would come out or the new lights, new technology, it was making the last year's model completely obsolete. Now, just what I thought would happen did happen. There's minor upgrades, whether it's the new Apple computer, the new cell phone. The upgrades are so minor, and I think it's only going to get worse because of these tariffs and manufacturing starting to reshore, not only to the United States, but back to their home country. And we have a story later about Japan specifically reshoring their manufacturing as well. That's going to really stagnate different manufacturing as far as technology goes. So I don't think this was a huge upgrade. If you have a Nintendo Switch 1, I would stick with that. I'm kind of babbling on. Did you have anything about Nintendo Switch? I know one of our friends actually works for Nintendo, so
Yes.
we have a little bit of inside information sometimes, but
He hasn't said anything.
no, and like everything you need to know has kind of already been said because the system's already out now.
I don't know anything about video games, so in this area, you know a lot more than I do.
Okay, let's continue on here.
So you added this story. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're going to like this story once I tell you the details.
Coming from CNN, 22 crew members rescued from lifeboat in North Pacific after ship carrying 3,000 cars catches fire.
And
were they from China and were they electric?
They were electric. 800 of them were electric, and it's believed that the electric ones are the ones that caught fire.
I mean, I feel bad for the people that had to endure it.
But they survived on the lifeboat, but yes. Also, like... I don't want to get too conspiratorial with this thing. Electric cars do blow up. None of them were on.
Like we're turned on.
But shipping is becoming, on our political channel, shipping lanes and shutting down shipping lanes, shipping in general with sanctions and things like this is becoming a big target, whether it's Chinese shipping, Russia shipping, or even U.S. shipping. Could this have been targeted through an online attack on those electric cars to intentionally make it blow up, because now you've sunk that entire ship most likely. And yeah.
So the crew of a cargo ship carrying 3,000 vehicles to Mexico, including 800 electric vehicles.
I didn't know it was Mexico.
Yeah, because they're trying to bring in to Mexico. They want to make it all Chinese electric cars. That's the only new cars I see on the road. They're all Chinese and electric.
But a lot of the manufacturing plants are already here for that. So it's surprising that they're shipping more electric cars here when they're manufacturing them here as well.
So they abandoned ship after they could not control the fire aboard the vessel in the waters off Alaska's Aleutian Island chain. A large plume of smoke was seen. I want to see where it was coming from. Because, it was the UK London-based Zodiac Maritime, but that doesn't tell us really anything. Tell me where they were coming from. Why don't they want to say where?
It was probably China if it was electric cars that had to be it.
Yes.
Because
the cars left Yantai, China on May 26, according to the industry site marinetraffic.com. They were being shipped to Lázaro Cárdenas, a major Pacific port in Mexico. Earlier this month, a Dutch safety board called for improving emergency response. But yes, so they, okay.
And this
exactly what I thought.
Yeah, well, this is also what I'm saying. If it's a Chinese vessel filled with electric cars, it could have been intentionally hit.
I don't know.
It's a huge loss, not for the cars on board. The amount that ship cost is huge.
And I do keep saying that Chinese electric vehicles have less regulation, and they have been known to blow up.
But they're completely okay.
You're more forward than I am, but seeing the amount of Chinese cars in Mexico just annoys me.
Okay, we're going to go into the next story, and it actually has a video with it, I believe. And this was the story. Let me take off my headphones for a sec. This is the story about the King of the Hill actor that we reported on the other day. And that was good on you the other day because you said it was a suspected lab with illicit materials were rumored to have been in the house. And it looks like, more details are coming out that may have very well been the case.
Yes.
And that's why the neighbors were mad at him. And this wasn't an LGBTQ targeted hate crime by their neighbors. It was because they were potentially having illegal substances and manufacturing those substances in the house.
There was a lot of, talk about it. There being more to this story than initially thought. And we'll see where the ones that were trying to use it as an example of the hate crimes in Trump's America will go with it, because now more and more stuff is coming out from Andy No at Mr. Andy No on X. He's an independent journalist, says this video found on the Facebook page of Jonathan Joss. It was posted on January 11, less than 2 weeks before the house was fully destroyed by a fire. And he said, "We don't need no water. Let the mother effer burn."
And I'm also going to say he is a lot skinnier here than he was in his pictures, which would also be an indication for illicit substances. And the way he's just spraying the water,
because the husband, quote unquote, because it's a trans husband, so biologically female, had said that this person was the one that was alleging a hate crime and that was alleging that the neighbors burned down the house and that they did stuff to their dogs, which it appears more and more it was not true.
Okay, let's play the video. I watched this earlier, but I'll watch it again.
On fire! We don't need no water. Let the motherfucker burn. Now, I do not own the rights to this, but honestly, the roof is on fire. Happy New Year, everybody. You can't beat them, burn them out. The roof.
And it's very strange, like how that fire took place and how it didn't engulf the house, but it made a hole in the roof. It looks like that could have been a lab. Mm-hmm. And especially they were able to get to it quick enough to put the fire out, meaning they were probably there monitoring it and manufacturing. Well, they lost control of it. Mm-hmm. So they were able to put it out quick enough to stop the whole house from burning down. But in a normal fire, very often it engulfs the whole house really quick. So all this is speculation, and I'm just kind of speculating, but yeah.
Yes, all speculation.
Okay, let's go into, what do we have here? Oh.
Well, you had an
It was a meme.
Yes, you had a meme coming from Rothmus saying, remember in Demolition Man when it's the future and everyone's a bunch of
So remember in
everything is illegal.
So remember in Demolition Man where it's the future and everyone's a bunch of wussies and everything is illegal. Yeah, not so funny now, huh? And yeah, that's kind of what's really happening nowadays. And like, I was really laughing when I seen this morning, so I just wanted to kind of throw it in there.
Well, that whole thing where Tim Pool always says the fourth turning, where it's what is it? Bad men bring bad times bring weak men bring bad times. The whole cycle of
but also the government is intentionally trying to weed out masculinity. We're having
the government, the media,
the feminization of the public in general and things like this. And that meme perfectly kind of encompasses that. You need strong men to build a strong society, to build strong infrastructure and protect that society. A lot of that is breaking down right now, and the global South, they have an opposite strategy. So we're going to kind of see what happens here. Okay. And this is we got two more stories. The next story kind of brings us into a little bit of production talk, but we'll do this one first. We'll go over this kind of quickly.
So coming from Gizmodo, which not always great, but this AI company saw Google's VO3 powered YouTube slop and said, hell yeah, the video generator train has left the station and there's no turning back. And this is from James Pero. He says, video generation is all the rage right now, while last month was all about Google's VO3, which has already threatened to deepfake all of YouTube, make incoherent action movies, and automate game development. The fun or horror hasn't stopped there. Just this week, OpenAI announced that it's making its Sora video generation model available for free via Bing, which is big news for anyone interested in testing out a video generator but doesn't actually feel the need to pay for one yet. And it's not all about the big two either. There are apparently other AI companies that saw VO3 was putting down what the VO3 was putting down in the world of AI slop and said, hold my beer.
And see if there's a clip for this.
One of those companies is called Captions, which just launched its own video generation model called Mirage Studio.
Yeah,
we actually used Captions for a while.
Let's play the clip real quick.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is coming from Captions. Let's see if it lets me play it. Hopefully there's no music. Oh, there's.
Oh, you don't have the... Pause it. You don't have the sound on.
Oh, good, because there's sound.
Oh. But I wanted people to hear it. Okay, that's fine.
Well, all our articles, everything we talk about is linked in our description, so you can go find it there if you want. But
and I think on the last article, you probably had the sound off as well.
No, I had it on.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, this being said, this conversation's kind of about AI coming into the content creator space and the influencer space. If people actually start to abandon real content creators for their news, for their pop culture, things like this, and you're getting this from AI generated sources, it's going to be weird how the government's going to integrate these things into social media and stuff like this, and who's actually having control over these fake content creators. I'm not a big fan of this overall, but I do understand AI and its benefits as well.
I'm not a huge fan of AI, especially because it does end creativity, and it becomes a question of what do the people actually want. And also on YouTube, for example, who gets monetized? Like,
Well, right now that advertising video that we couldn't play because the sound is that they're actually saying to use it for ads and things like this because it's a lot cheaper, and they are correct. But the next step is logically to take over content creator spaces in general. That being said, now I am very glad on our other channel, Nat and the Guy in Espanol, we kept our entire video log from when we were crap of why we started doing video vlogs, which was with the Freedom Convoy. Kind of our red lines got crossed by the government, so we started making content about politics that transitioned into pop culture. But you can really see when we were shitty, how we kind of grew, our backstory through it. So I'm glad we have that now because we can always prove that we're kind of real content creators.
We're real people.
Yeah.
And on the Spanish channel also, because of the worries about AI and about content creators kind of just making themselves into an AI version and just using that, or just full on fake generated content creators, you always tell me to move my arms a lot and be very expressive. And a lot of people in Spanish and our Spanish channel always complaining that I move my arms too much. But part of it is because you as a producer are aware of people want to make sure that people are real now.
Well, also doing lives, like to be honest with you, when we make videos and we post the videos, even if they're clips, that's where all the subscriber base comes from. We very rarely, unless it's a Meghan Markle subject,
and like yesterday,
get subscriptions on our lives. But it gives us so much practice at things, being able to talk off the cuff. It saves a lot of time as well, but it really hones all of the skills I think we're going to need in the long term. And that's why doing 3 shows a day seems like a lot sometimes, but it really lets us hone our skills because we were complete crap when we started and we're still pretty crappy, but we're getting better.
Yes. And Rafa, hello Rafa.
Yeah, I seen that he says, what did he say?
So Rafa says, hello, I missed yesterday's lives, but I'll catch up today. Thank you. It's not an obligation, but
yeah, we missed you yesterday, but we did have a couple other people join us, which was nice, and not leave comments because usually you're the only one leaving comments.
And thank you so much for that. We actually did say thank you yesterday as well to you, Jessica Ramirez, and Walker, who are always in our comments and from the start. So
they really drove us forward as far as content creators. Hopefully they're real because that last story kind of goes into, what was it, Facebook and Meta saying they're going to create artificial followers to
they already exist
to create more engagement. It's starting to turn into dead internet theory, but it's not a theory anymore.
Yeah, now they're real. Saying it out loud. But that's been happening for the longest time. But I do want to believe Rafa, Walker, and Jessica Ramirez are real.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a interesting world we're moving into. But I do think the content creators that have their faces, have been on there for a long time, have proven to be real people, might start becoming more attractive to audiences because everything else is going to be AI.
Well, also I think if you're able to stick it out through, I think there's going to be a huge influx of AI, and a lot of people may actually start following these AI content creators, but it's going to discourage a lot of new content creators because when you first try to make content, you're going to suck at it. And if you're comparing yourself to some AI that's perfect, it's going to be hard to keep going.
Yeah.
So it could have an effect where people that already know how to make content will succeed even more because they kind of have a little bit of knowledge and self-belief. Okay, let's go into the last.
Rafa says, I'm a Chinese AI. My favorite kind of AI.
I thought he was a Mexican AI.
No, we don't. In Mexico, we don't have the money to do that stuff yet. So that's how I know Rafa is real.
Okay, let's go into the last story. And I am kind of switching this show to talk about pop culture in the morning and production, sometimes with a little bit of politics. Today, we had a ton of pop culture stories. So I'm not going to have that much time to talk about production, but why don't we read this article and then I'll relate it to our production company, I guess.
So this is coming from Fuji Rumors. Made in Japan Fujifilm X100 VI, XT5, XT50, and XM5. Now available to order at B&H Studio, but that's not the story. So to avoid steep U.S. tariffs on Chinese-made goods, Fujifilm is relocating production of all of these cameras for the U.S. market from China to Japan. This is why now B&H Photo is listing the Japan-made all of these cameras on their website, and they're marking the Chinese versions as discontinued. Interestingly, they all say this is made in Japan. All this made in Japan gear will be available in 7 to 14 days.
Yeah,
which is a quick turnaround.
I follow Fuji rumors extremely close. All my cameras are Fuji. Would I recommend Fuji to other people if they're starting out? Probably not. We'll get into that in a minute. But because I follow Fuji extremely closely, I mean on a daily basis, I know all the ins and outs of their company. Just, I think it was 2 years ago, they moved the majority of their manufacturing to China because it wasn't cost effective to do it in Japan anymore. Most of the major camera brands are based out of Japan. Most of them have moved their production to China. So Donald Trump putting a huge tariff on Chinese goods, and it's kind of in limbo. Fuji is now moving all that manufacturing, which they only recently moved to China, back to Japan. And I think the build quality will improve in Japan, but I think the cost will go up as well. But it's interesting to see how tariffs are affecting other countries' manufacturing as well. Like this is the first case that I've seen where they're moving manufacturing out of China and they're actually doing it. I know there's a lot of talks about Apple doing it as well. We'll see what happens. They're trying to work out a deal with the Trump administration right now. That being said, I shoot all my cameras are Fujifilm. The reason I shoot Fuji is when I first wanted to get into filmmaking and stuff like that, the idea was I wanted to make documentaries one day. I bought a camera. I tried to shoot something on video and I was horrible and I didn't understand anything. It was extremely hard. The reason I chose Fuji is it was just a recommendation from the guy at the camera store, honestly. And I was really disappointed in my failure when I first picked up a camera. But I said, rather than quit, I'll try to learn photography and I'll learn all the basics and hopefully I can go back into videography after and that will bridge the gap. And it did. And Fuji is one of the companies that have a lot of nostalgia and it's really photography first. So when I started learning photography on these Fuji cameras, it really helped because they had tactile dials on top for me to learn the exposure triangle and things like this. If I was going to recommend a camera system to somebody that wants to do videography primarily, I would probably recommend Sony. It's a much bigger company. They have more research and development. They own more of the market. Their cameras tend to work with all third-party products and things like this. Fujifilm is more of a fringe brand, but I do like the imagery and because I like photography so much, and that's really how I had to learn videography was through photography. I kind of stick with Fuji and I own a lot of their lenses. So it's cheap for me now to, when they have a new body, just buy the new body because all my lenses are already incorporated with them.
And also a way in which I think it's important to mention as well, when you were getting into initially, I'd been interested since I was younger. I wanted to study film, wasn't able to do that, but I was still always very interested in it, was through not just like learning the basics and getting the camera and learning how to use a camera, but getting jobs in industries where they actually taught photography. So you did, eventually me as well, but did a little bit of real estate photography for listings. We got a job doing that at a company. Yeah. And then doing portrait photography for a company that did like school portraits and stuff. So
I looked for the shittiest photography companies that paid absolute crap. So I knew it was entry level and they would hire me in and I can learn everything about photography that way. And it actually worked very well and it built my base up on many different levels. It wasn't just me teaching myself, because when you teach yourself, you don't learn the expedient processes kind of needed, especially when later on when I converted to YouTube.
And it also helped with knowing what angles work, not just in photography, but videography. And it helps you have a different kind of eye and how to see things and frame things also within video and even for YouTube and stuff. So, I mean, that would be, if you're really interested in photography, I think that would be a good.
Yeah. And I always recommend everything. The best tool anybody has is their cell phone. And so if you're thinking about even photography, use your cell phone for photography. Now, when I first tried to use my cell phone for photography, I hated it. You're holding it like this. It's always almost slipping out of your hands. It just doesn't feel like a camera. So one thing I did find, and I'm not necessarily recommending this product, this is a bit older now. This is just the one I use, but they have a lot of different things like this. When I first started getting into photography, this was the only kind of brand they had that made something like this, but it's a basic phone case that you can put this on. It kind of connects, and it's a trigger now. So I can now hold the phone like a camera. It feels like a camera. It has a little trigger on top. If you're just getting into photography and you don't know if you're ready to buy a camera yet, you really need to learn the basics of photography, and you can do it with your phone. This little case and this trigger probably cost $30 or $40. So it's really cheap. There's a lot of different products like this. Just research the products. I highly recommend something like this. It will teach you the basics with your phone, so you don't have to invest in a camera or something like this. Also, like, I can hold it like this. I can now make the adjustments on my phone for my ISO, for my shutter speed, things like that. If you are going to do something like this, start out with all the automatic settings, but eventually try to make it manual so you can learn what the ISO does, what the shutter speed does, what the f-stop does, things like this. It's all based upon how much light is let into the lens. The cell phone, when it comes to photography, is your best tool to start out with. When it comes to videography, it's also your best tool to start out with. You don't need these large cameras. I happen to have them because maybe I did things in reverse and I did a lot of things the wrong way. But yeah, if you are going to buy a bigger camera, I do recommend primarily probably Sony is the best brand. I use Fuji. I like Fuji, but I also like photography a lot. So.
And Rafa says, I own an old Minolta, uses rolled film, made in Japan. Those were really good products. Yes, unfortunately, that one kind of died out for a little bit, but
film costs so much now.
Yes,
and I actually, one of my jobs I got for this was, this is a huge recommendation. If you're thinking about buying cameras or a lot of technology at once, my back was going out, so I knew I only had a few years to kind of buy the equipment because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to work at a physical job. So basically, I worked 4 jobs. Half of all those paychecks went into buying equipment. One of the jobs I got was working at what's called the London Drugs. It would be like a drugstore with an electronics department in it.
Kind of like a Target, Walgreens.
Yeah, kind of like a Target or Walgreens or even a Walmart. And I worked in the photo lab there. And it was an entry-level job again, and I printed everything out. They taught me. So I got to learn how to print photos out, a lot of things I would have never learned. That being said, the reason I got the job there, because it was minimum wage and it sucked, but I got a 50% discount on all my camera gear and stuff like that. So I have a lot of cameras and stuff because I intentionally got a job where I would get a discount, and that job paid more in my discount than it did of my hourly wage. Eventually, I worked for 3 months so I could qualify for my discount. And then I cut down to 1 day a week so I could just maintain my discount. And over the 4 years, I constantly used that. And it was a great way to build a small production company. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking about building a small production company and maybe you've already saved the money, get a job at a little camera store or electronics place that sells the stuff that you want, and you'll get a 50% discount. Yes. I think women do this a lot with clothes. Yes. They get a job at a clothes store so they can get their discount. I did it with cameras. And now I'm obsessed with cameras because of all the research I've done and things like this.
Yeah. And being a little bit obsessive also and doing reviews and like looking for reviews, comparisons, etc. before you just go buy the first thing that one YouTuber uses or recommends. Because for the longest time, I saw a lot of content creators using Canon. And Canons are, number one, really big and annoying to get into. Number two, they do have mirrorless options, but all the ones that get recommended are these huge machines that are for professionals that entry-level wise, people usually don't know how to use, and it takes a long time to learn how to use them properly.
Overall, I say Sony is the best, and this is not coming from somebody that actually shoots Sony. This is just through me doing my research and things like this. Other emerging camera companies are, if you're really into video, Blackmagic is a great company, not necessarily for cameras, although they do make good cameras, but there are limitations on the photography side. But a lot of my other equipment, like our editing software, is Blackmagic. A lot of our different editing boards, things like that, are Blackmagic. Blackmagic is just a great company, and
it's expensive, but
no, it's not.
Well, some things are.
Not really.
If
no.
you're just starting out.
They're actually Blackmagic outside.
Well, they do.
Outside of cameras are extremely cheap. Their editing software, if you're just getting into editing, is absolutely free. And it's if you want the upgraded version, you pay a one-time fee of $300, which there's no subscription fee like in Adobe.
Sorry, I was thinking about the ATEM and stuff.
Oh yeah. No, the ATEMs are cheap as well.
They have cheap versions.
Yeah, they have cheap version. That's what you kind of start with, and then you work your way up. Okay, that being said, before we go today, I did recommend a cell phone for photography and videography. I'm not sure about the future of Apple. It doesn't look good, but I used to use Android and Huawei and a home-built computer, and then I transferred to Apple, and everything just works phenomenal. If you're not very tech savvy and you can afford it, I would recommend Apple. Why? Because especially if you're running a small production company, the phone integrates with the iPad perfectly, which integrates with the computer perfectly. I'm able to transfer files seamlessly and quick. It wasn't that way with my other computer. I still have my other computer, and it's a pain anytime I have to import, export files onto that computer.
Even though it was like a state-of-the-art self-built
that was like
bunch of storage.
It was like
an
an $8,000 computer. It puts specs-wise, it puts all my Apple computers to shame. But it's like these cheap Apple things. This is an iPhone 13. This is an older iPad Pro. My other one is just an M1 Air, I believe, and it's not even the best Apple stuff, but the integration of the system works very well.
And all of that was also thanks to the discount and for like trading in, not with Apple, but just selling the older one for a newer one.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. No, we almost basically never bought anything even
I
new.
never paid full price for anything. Oh, and I will say one more thing. I know most of the audience here is probably from Mexico or outside of the US and Canada, but since moving to Mexico, I realized one great thing about the US and Canada is Facebook Marketplace. You get things extremely cheap because people in those countries are constantly buying the new technology, selling their other stuff for a used price, and even selling a lot of my old gear. I put it on Facebook Marketplace at a discounted rate to just sell it quickly. And in Mexico, it's not safe to sell on Facebook Marketplace.
And in Canada,
it's hard to find good price things here. People give furniture and different things I need for production, like desks, away for free in Canada all the time. That doesn't happen in Mexico. There's a guy going down the street with a truck, with a horn, wanting anything you have to throw away.
Yeah, that's the Se Compran, in case you've ever heard it. Rafa says BlackBerry was the best, rest in peace. Also a Canadian company.
Oh, we watched that movie, actually. They made a movie recently, and it was pretty decent.
Let me find what it's called. Because, it was surprisingly Canadian made and actually pretty well made.
And it was made by CBC, which is the propaganda media company, but it was actually a good movie.
Oh, I think it is called BlackBerry.
Yeah, it was called BlackBerry. It was pretty decent.
Yeah, so another recommendation. Rafa says, let me know when you want to try the AWS instance for video uploading. Oh, actually, I didn't know it was an offer. Because he was recommending for us to be able to maybe reach an American audience to use some sort of thing so it doesn't know we're in Mexico.
But we're not really clipping videos yet.
Not yet, but when we do, we actually...
Probably in the next month, we're going to start.
Yeah, and we do have our email listed on our channel. So if, Rafa, you want to contact us through there to kind of start the conversation, that'd be great.
Yeah, where is it? Where can you find the email?
It's in the description for our channel, or it's natandtheguy@gmail.com.
Yeah, so natandtheguy@gmail.com. Yeah, message us, Rafa, because we definitely were thinking about trying to hit an American audience. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Okay, well, that's it for today.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in, and please like and subscribe. Nat's going to be back here at 8 p.m. Central tonight
on our other channel.
On Nat and the Guy in Espanol. Then we'll be back right here at 9:15 for Nat and the Guy.
Yes, and thank you so much, Rafa, and everybody else that tuned in for the live. And if you're watching on replay, thank you.
Adios.